Production support for the Friday Zone is provided by Smithfield Telephone Company, a locally owned business serving South Central Indiana since 1922, proudly offering unlimited long distance, cellular, and DSL. Smithfield Telephone, local pride, global technology. And by the Herald Times, featuring what's new at your child's school and schools around the nation. With education news and kids' views, the Herald Times. See what's in it for you. And WTIU members. Thank you.
We're going batty today here in the Zone. You'll meet Luna and Millie, two big brown bats, and their handler Laura from Bat World Hoosier Hills. Later in the show, we'll be going for a dive as we investigate underwater pumpkin carving. So grab your scuba gear and let's get going.
You're not alone. You're in the zone. So hang up the phone and get in the zone. Get in the zone. Friday zone. You're in the zone. Friday zone. Everyone is invited to come. Everyone is invited to come. Everyone is invited to zone. Everyone is invited to zone.
Hello, I'm Katie and welcome to the Friday Zone. We have some very special guests here in the studio with us today. 2 out of our 4 guests are typically nocturnal or active at night, but they have agreed to make a special daytime appearance here on the Friday Zone. We're pleased to welcome bat experts Laura Holman and Jennifer Raff and their furry flying friends. So welcome, Laura and Jennifer. We're glad to have you here.
It's great to be here.
So I know you have 2 friends with you who are nocturnal. Would you like to introduce us to Luna and Millie?
Absolutely. Just give me a minute to get them out.
All right, and you're putting the gloves on for safety's sake.
Yeah, they're wild animals, and I treat them as wild animals. It's very important. They're not pets. They both came in from the wild, but now they're education bats. Let me see.
It takes a second to get them out, doesn't it?
Yes, they don't always want to come out of their pouch because they feel nice and safe and secure in there.
Oh my gosh. So do you want to tell us and the kids watching at home what kind of bats that Luna and Millie are?
Sure, they're big brown bats, which is the most common species of bat here in Indiana. The scientific name is Eptesicus fuscus, which just sounds fancy. I just always call them big brown bats because it's way easier.
Easier to spell too.
Well, it's not very descriptive. Big brown bat is nice and generic.
Exactly. Now tell us, we know that big brown bats are native to the state of Indiana, but where would we find these bats in the wild?
In the wild, actually, surprisingly enough, these guys, you'll find them in very urban settings a lot of the times. They're very smart and very adaptable animals. So as urbanization has occurred, as we knock down natural habitat and forests and put up buildings, they've learned that they can roost inside buildings, and which people aren't always happy about. But you'll find them roosting in old buildings and barns a lot of the time. But you also still find them out in natural habitat settings like forests.
Exactly.
But people usually see them in houses or flying around their yards.
And some people are scared, right?
This is true.
Okay, now I know that we probably have some other types of bats that are native to Indiana. Can you tell us what other kinds of bats we can find around?
Well, there are about 12 different species of bats, and it's kind of a long list, so I'll give you probably the more common bats.
That'd be great.
There's the other generically named little brown bat, which is the other one that people occasionally see either in bat houses or occasionally roosting in houses. The other ones that people sometimes encounter are the eastern red bat, which is really, really pretty orange bat and has really fluffy fur, and the hoary bat. And those probably are the ones that most commonly people see.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know we had so many kinds of bats here in Indiana.
Oh yeah.
Now Luna and Millie are special because they're outreach bats. Can you tell us what that means?
They initially came into rehab. Luna was an orphaned bat, and Millie was an injured bat, and they both came into rehab. And my goal was always to release bats back into the wild, but that doesn't always happen. Millie's wing injuries were too bad, and she'll never be releasable. And Luna has a slight developmental problem with her wings that doesn't allow her to fly correctly. So because they couldn't survive in the wild, I was able to keep them and got a USDA permit to do education programs with them. So they're not my pets, they're just wild animals that are in my care and that I'm fortunate enough to do education programs with.
Wow, so lots of kids and families around the community get to meet Luna and Millie at your
Absolutely.
presentations.
I do programs all over Bloomington and the surrounding area.
That sounds great. Now, you mentioned that they're not pets. Why is that?
They're very, very difficult animals to take care of, including caging requirements, nutritional difficulties, and providing the full spectrum of what they need to eat. And trust me, it's not easy. I actually went to a 5-day workshop on how to take care of them, and I don't think I was qualified until after I took that. And even then, we simply don't know everything. We're learning stuff about them all the time.
Wow, now I know that bats are nocturnal and that they go out at night and they find insects. So can you tell us how they find their insects?
Well, they use, a lot of people have heard about what they use. It's called echolocation. People always ask me, well, why don't they just look at where the insects are? But echolocation is great because it gives them information not only where that insect is, but what direction it's flying and how fast. And the bat's brain can actually calculate out where that insect is going to be, and the bat can go and intercept that insect and catch it. It's amazing.
That is amazing. Now, Jennifer, I know you work with Laura and the bats, and Laura and you have to work with these bats and give them special food. So can you show us the food they've got and maybe let us have them have a snack while they're here?
The bats eat mealworms, and they're kind of gross.
But the bats
yeah, I
love
might have
them.
to take my gloves off for this.
I'll hold the bats.
All right.
You hold the tweezers.
All right,
Good.
we're gonna feed them here. So.
Now Millie's on bottom. She's the one who
Okay,
really
should we
likes
feed
to
her
eat.
first? I
Yes.
think, yeah.
If she doesn't, she gets grumpy.
All right, we don't want to start any fights here. If I can get them.
Here you go.
Here you go, Millie.
Oh yeah, there she
she
goes.
Wow, we can hear the crunching.
Yep. Well, because you think about insects have that hard exoskeleton, that hard outer shell, and so the bats have really sharp teeth, so they can crunch through and get to the yummy, gooey insides.
Should we give Luna one too?
Yeah,
Okay.
Luna might not eat one. She's not always as hungry as Millie is.
No, she seems pretty. Oh, they're fighting over it.
Um,
Oh dear.
oh no.
Well, we'll let them finish having their mealworm
Try
snack.
to-
Laura and Jenny have certainly shared a lot of information about big brown bats. Thanks to the quality time I spent with Luna and Millie, I won't be afraid of a bat the next time I come into contact with one. But I'm not the only host of the Friday Zone who has been educated about bats. Let's take a look at how a young guest named Eleanor helped former Friday Zone host Holly Gregory learn about echolocation.
Eleanor Hitchings from Wonderlab Museum of Science, Health, and Technology is with us in the zone today to talk to us about bats. So we're going to look at these little guys over here first, right?
Yes.
Who have we got here, Eleanor? These two bats?
Yes.
This is, which one's the one that's native to Indiana? That one. That's the big brown bat, right?
Yes, even though it's not very big.
It is pretty small. I think a lot of people think of bats as being really huge, but they're not that big, are they?
No.
Okay, so that is what a bat looks like. Now this bat, of course, is not alive. We got this one from the biology department at Indiana University, so we could take a closer look. And then we also have this bat skeleton over here, right?
Yes.
Okay, now what do you think is interesting about this bat skeleton?
If you put your hand out, it's like its it's like its hand.
Okay,
The
so if
wing.
we put our hand out, it's, oh, I see what you mean. So each one of these bones that comes down there is like one of our fingers, is what you're
Right.
saying, right? And that's basically, that's now the skin that's stretched in between is how they fly, right?
Right.
Okay, now what is the other thing they use as they fly?
Echolocation.
Echolocation, and that's what we're going to talk about today. What is echolocation?
Where a bat sends out a high-pitched sound and it hits something, and when it bounces back the speed of how fast it gets to get back to the bat, it'll know how far away it is.
Okay, and what is it looking for? It's looking for the sound to hit what?
Insects.
Insects to gobble up and eat, right?
Right.
Okay, so to demonstrate echolocation, what do we need here, Eleanor?
We need a timer
Uh-huh,
and tennis balls
right?
to represent the sound waves.
Uh-huh.
And a board to throw the tennis balls against.
Right, and you could use a wall or anything, right?
Right.
Okay, so Eleanor here has put some bugs on our wall, right? And then we've drawn 2 lines on the floor here, and what are the lines? It's just our place to know when
Right.
we're sending it.
So the closer the bat gets to the food, the shorter time it takes.
Okay,
For the
all
bat
right.
to
Okay, so you
Get its food.
you roll, and I'm going to time you, and we'll see how this works. Okay, so let's review right before we do it. The ball is the sound that the bat is emitting, right?
Right.
The sound that the
Yes.
bat is sending out, and it's going to hit one of these bugs, and we're going to see how long it takes to get back to it, right?
Right.
Okay, ready? Go ahead.
Whoa.
Whoa, okay.
messed up.
That's all right. Just do it again. It'll bounce right back to you. Okay, and now try the shorter line. Okay, so it takes less time for it to get from the shorter line than it does from the
Right.
longer line, right? And that's how a bat knows where its food is.
Right.
Is that right? And that whole thing, that bouncing back of the sound,
Right, shows it how far away it is.
and it's called
Echolocation.
woohoo. And the other reason bats need this is because they're nocturnal, right?
Right, so, and they fly at night and they're blind.
Right, they're blind, so they can't see, so they have to use sound to
Right.
navigate their way through the world at night, right? Yeah. What do you think, Eleanor? Bats pretty cool?
Yep,
Yeah, you like them?
yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for showing us that science.
During that Friday Zone flashback, Eleanor and Holly both believe that bats are blind, but this is not the case. Although lots of people think that bats are blind, bats have eyes and can actually see. But in the dark, good ears are more useful than eyes while hunting for insects and other treats to eat. Did you know how I found out that bats can actually see? I found out by reading a book called Bat Loves the Night by Nicola Davies. If meeting Luna and Millie piqued your interest and you'd like to find out more information on your own about all different kinds of bats, fly on over to your public library. We know that bats get their exercise while flying swiftly through the night chasing insects, but it's also important for you to get exercise too. Here's an exercise that you can try at home.
Your body will benefit in lots of ways when you try a strength training exercise like this. The Ultimate Crunch is an exercise that can help you play your way to strong abdominal muscles. To do this exercise, you need a small exercise mat or carpeted floor. Make sure there is open space around you. Wear comfortable shoes and clothes that allow you to move freely. Here's what you do. Lie on your back with your legs extended and your feet in the air. Place both hands behind your head with your elbows out to the side. Flex your spine upwards towards your legs and then lower yourself back to the mat. Repeat this motion 12 to 20 times. Try it with friends or on your own.
Have fun in the fitness zone.
With all of the Halloween candy that some of you will soon be trick-or-treating for, an exercise like the Ultimate Crunch is sure to help you keep in shape. Now joining me in the zone are a brother and sister who are more than ready for Halloween. Please welcome Jacob and Haley. Hello, hello, come on in, take a seat. It's hard to believe there were some bats sitting here just a couple minutes ago.
So cool.
Now Halloween is coming, so Jacob, tell me, what's your favorite thing about Halloween?
Carving pumpkins.
Do you have your pumpkin all picked out?
I haven't picked out the patterns and stuff yet, so no.
But do you have some good ideas in your head?
Yeah, vampire.
Ooh, that sounds exciting. Now, Haley, what's your favorite thing about Halloween?
I'm not sure. I like trick-or-treating.
Trick-or-treating.
I like the candy.
I like candy too. My favorite thing is passing out candy on my front porch. So I can't wait for Halloween to come. But did you guys notice the front porch when you walked in? Did you see some pretty awesome pumpkins over there?
Yeah.
Do you guys like, I know you like to carve pumpkins. Haley, do you like to carve them too?
Yes, I do.
Have you ever done underwater pumpkin carving?
No.
No.
Haven't even went underwater.
Haven't even gone underwater? Well, we took a Friday Zone field trip to Phillips Quarry in Muncie, Indiana to find out more about an unusual pumpkin carving contest sponsored by the Delaware Divers Club.
In Muncie, Indiana, some folks enjoyed pumpkin carving with a twist. While most of us landlubbers barely managed to carve pumpkins on solid ground, members of the Delaware Divers Club carved their pumpkins underwater, wearing fins and wetsuits.
We're at Phillips Quarry, which is inside the city limits of Muncie, Indiana, and we're at a pumpkin carving contest for the Delaware Divers, which is a local scuba club. We have done this for many years.
According to event sponsor Tom Leard, the owner of a Muncie scuba shop bearing his name, divers of all ages and experience levels participate in this annual event that has been going on since the late 70s and early 80s.
There's quite a range of diving experience. Some old seasoned folks and some really brand new divers that weren't very comfortable in the water, as you might see. So yeah, there's quite a range. Most of them are club members. But we don't turn anybody away. Anybody that wants to come carve a pumpkin, they're welcome to come do it.
Prior to entering the water, all participating divers get suited up and select their pumpkins. Then each diver removes the top and the guts of his or her pumpkin. Sean, the youngest diver at this year's event, described his search for the perfect pumpkin.
I didn't know if it was the right one because it was pretty big and I thought it was going to be a little hard to do underwater, so, but it went okay.
Before entering the water, the divers had to add something to the interior of their pumpkins, some extra weight.
You know, the pumpkin floats a bit, so I saw they either put gravel or a scuba weight or something in there to sink their pumpkin and just go out and find a spot and carve their favorite design. And quite a bit of imagination there today. That's really neat.
Believe it or not, conditions in the quarry are ideal this time of year for underwater pumpkin carving.
This is a good time of year because we're left over with summer heat. So the temperature of the water, and I didn't look at my computer, but I suspect around 78 or 79 degrees in the upper 22 feet, I believe. The thermocline, or a change of temperature, occurs at about 22 feet at this time of year. And water clarity is really superb, even though our errant fins down here stirred it all up. But when we went in, the visibility was 40 to 50 feet.
Divers who participated in this year's underwater pumpkin carving contest were required to swim with a buddy.
We train our divers to always dive with a buddy. We think it's more than a safety thing. It's enjoying and sharing a sport and sharing an activity with somebody else. But of course it is the safety thing too.
Using their imaginations and some simple carving tools, the divers came up with all kinds of designs. Some of the designs were more traditional, while many were unique. Sean came up with the idea for his cheerful pumpkin while underwater.
I stuck my knife into the pumpkin so I wouldn't lose it, and then I just carved it underwater, I guess. I just went whatever I felt like off the top of my head. The eyes were a triangle, so was the nose, and the mouth was a big, big smile.
Due to the good turnout this year, Tom believes that the Delaware Divers Club will continue carving pumpkins underwater well into the future.
Particularly with this year's enthusiasm, that it's something that'll continue off in the future, because the second Sunday of October is typically the Delaware Divers Pumpkin Carving, and probably continue here at this location.
So Friday Zone viewers, if you think you're up for the challenge, be sure to mark your calendars for next year's event.
It should come as no surprise that our hands-on project today in the zone incorporates both bats and pumpkins. Now, when I refer to this project as a hands-on activity, it truly is. We'll be using our thumbs to create thumbprint bats and pumpkins. So take a look at what I've got here, Haley and Jacob. In front of each of you, you should have a purple washable ink pad and an orange one, so you both have those, right? And what else do we have here, Jacob?
We have a black marker. And
what's right in front of you?
We have a blank piece of paper to use.
Exactly.
We're using the thumbprints and using this to add some details.
Exactly. So we are going to, these papers aren't going to be blank for very long. So do you guys want to start with the pumpkins or do you want to start with the bats?
Pumpkins.
Pumpkins? Okay, so you're going to need your orange ink pad. So go ahead and take your thumb, and if you want to pick it up, you can, or you want to leave it down, you can, but roll your thumb in there nice and tight. Okay, and then when you're ready, down somewhere on your paper, wherever you want, you're going to put your thumbprint down and then lift up. So you got one? Perfect. Okay, we're going to do that again. We're actually going to do that 2 more times, and we're going to overlap those thumbprints to make a pumpkin. So if you put the second one close to the first one and press down again and lift up, and one more time, you will have the start of a pumpkin. So you got that? Looks good. Okay, so if you want, take your black marker. We're gonna add some details to that pumpkin. And if it's not perfectly round or it's not perfectly shaped, it doesn't have to be, because all thumbs are different. So obviously we're gonna put some eyes, a nose, and a mouth. So however you wanna draw 2 eyes, and go ahead and put a nose. And you can make your pumpkin happy or sad or a scary mouth, it's up to you. And then when you've got the 2 eyes and the nose and the mouth, you have to put just a little stalk on top. And you have a pumpkin. So let's see. I can tell you guys are artists. Don't forget the part on the top, the little part that you can hold on to when you carve it, right? Perfect. All right, so you guys are expert pumpkin makers. If you put your markers down for a second, you know how my thumb is orange. Is your thumb too? Show me your thumbs. Yes, okay, so we're gonna clean those off a little bit. These are just cotton balls with a little bit of rubbing alcohol on them. So if you wanna kind of rub that across your thumb, that one's pretty good, and kind of wipe that off, you'll see that that ink comes off because it is washable. So we're gonna just kind of clean it off like that. It's not gonna come all the way off, but you could be able to wash your hands at home too, right? Okay, and then I'm gonna hand you a paper towel and just kind of dry that off just a little bit. So dry that thumb off. And here's one for you, Miss Haley. Yeah. And if you want to put that back in here, you can. Your used one. Perfect. Okay, so wipe it off, and if it's not all gone, that's okay. We can have multicolored bats, can't we?
Yeah.
So we're gonna do.
Little pumpkins already.
Yeah. Okay, so pick up your purple. We're gonna do a bat this time. So go ahead and put your thumb in there and do the purple, and then put that somewhere on your paper and press down again. All right. I know it can get a little messy, but that makes it more fun. Perfect. So our bats are going to be flying. So if you pick up your markers again we're going to add the eyes and a little mouth, and you're going to add some wings onto the side, however you want to do that. You can make it as cute or as scary as you want. And you can draw legs and little feet, and you can do little slanty eyebrows like that, however you want your bat to look. And you can put as many pumpkins and bats on your paper, and you can add designs with crayons and draw and make it all kinds of fun. So our example, we have trees, a sky, and a moon. So apparently pumpkins aren't only for carving. The kids and I will keep creating thumbprint pumpkins and bats while you take a look at how a Bloomington man incorporates aspects of engineering and plenty of pumpkins into his unusual hobby.
Fall is the time of year when people look forward to crackling bonfires, fuzzy sweaters, and picking pumpkins. It's also the perfect time to blow stuff up.
Hi, Friday Zone viewers. I'm Jim Bristow, and this is my pumpkin cannon.
Jim Bristow can best be described as a man with an unusual and loud hobby. Using his mechanical and engineering background, as well as a little ingenuity, Jim constructed his Ain't All There pumpkin cannon. His passion for making things go boom was triggered by the building of a high-powered potato gun.
And so the day I got it going, I stood outside the house, and wife and kids were all out there, and I thought, well, I'll just barrel down on the side of the garage and shoot it and watch the spud break. Well, I had no idea I'd gained so much more velocity. I actually blew a hole through the side of the garage. And it was brand new cedar siding. I hadn't even painted it yet. But anyway, that's when I turned around and looked at my wife and goes, oh, this is too cool. I got to build a bigger one. And then she told me right then, she goes, you just ain't all there.
4 frozen pumpkins later, and his wife's old cutlass was smashed to smithereens.
Most of the pumpkins that we grow around here are a fairly soft pumpkin. In other words, ones you make jack-o'-lanterns out of and things like that. And if we're shooting for distance up in there, you'll see them come apart a lot. I mean, just blow up coming out of the barrel because they can't take the force of all that pressure at one time. So a lot of times when we're shooting short distances like this, or even for long distance, we'll go ahead and freeze the pumpkin, and that just ensures that it's going to stay together coming out the end of the barrel. So I get a good shot every time.
We sure hope Jim's wife wasn't mad when she saw what her husband did to her old car.
Right, this car was my wife's. I brought it out of the woods yesterday, and I don't know if she knows I'm doing this to it or not, but who cares? Yeah. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I just can't get enough of that.
So what exactly does it take to pulverize a pumpkin along with a car or two?
As far as the science and the math goes on this, it was pretty intense at times. Really, basically, all it is we put a lot of air pressure right in the big cylinder in the back and release it all at once with the pumpkin all the way to the back side. So all that air pressure takes and forces that pumpkin right out the end of the barrel. And typically, with 100 pounds of pressure in there, what a normal air compressor will pump up to, you'll end up with the pumpkin coming out at roughly 900 miles an hour. Or with the extension, 1,300 miles an hour, which is twice the sound barrier around here.
First, Jim puts a 5-gallon bucket into the 12-inch cylinder in order to create the perfect seal. A frozen pumpkin is added next. Then, Jim uses a long-handled ramrod to push the pumpkin and the bucket all the way to the end of the cylinder. With the help of an air compressor, Jim raises the air pressure in about 3 minutes' time. With the help of hydraulics, Jim can raise or lower the cannon to the height and angle he needs, depending on the distance he wants the pumpkin to travel. Once the safety is released on the trigger, all it takes is the push of a button to send a pumpkin flying.
Typically, this is the biggest piece you'll ever find out of a pumpkin once it hits a car. They atomize. In fact, the whole interior of this car is now covered with pumpkin pulp.
The pumpkin cannon never loses its thrill for Jim.
You never get tired of it. I mean, we shot all day, over at one of the farms down south of town. They had tons and tons of little kids. They was pulling the trigger. And really, that's almost as priceless as shooting the cannon itself, is watching the expression on the kid's face. So it's definitely a rush.
So kids, if you like to build things with your hands, aren't afraid to get messy, and have a good imagination, Jim has some words of wisdom for you.
And the biggest thing is, if you can imagine it, you can do it. I mean, it ain't that I'm that smart, but I know how to use a cutting torch and a welder and a little bit of creativity. And, this is a totally useless project except for just having fun. And, anything you can dream up, you can do.
But if you're inspired to build at home, Jim has one tidbit of advice.
Friday Zone viewers, ask your parents before you do this, or at least come see me.
Fire in the hole!
Whoa! Yeah, gotta rebuild my little corral.
Wow, my perception of pumpkins has completely changed after watching the destruction that a well-aimed pumpkin can create. With that, it's time to say goodbye for now. I'd like to thank Haley and Jacob for visiting us here in the Zone. Give everyone at home a double thumbs up with your colored thumbs. Can you show them your thumbs? I'd also like to thank Laura Homan and Jennifer Raff, as well as Luna and Millie for helping us learn a whole bunch about bats. Be sure to take what you've learned in the Zone and make it your own. Haley and Jacob and I are off to carve some pumpkins of our own. I'll see you here next week. Okay, take the top off. See the guests. All right.
Production support for the Friday Zone is provided by Smithfield Telephone Company, a locally owned business serving South Central Indiana since 1922, proudly offering unlimited long distance, cellular, and DSL. Smithfield Telephone, local pride, global technology. And by the Herald Times, featuring what's new at your child's school and schools around the nation, with education news and kids' views. The Herald Times, see what's in it for you. The Fitness Zone is made possible in part by assistance from the AAU Hyper Fund, as well as faculty and students at the School of Health, Physical Education, and Recreation at Indiana University. The School of Hyper, committed to public health and wellness through the study and application of the life sciences.